Humans and robots. The president, military officers, and other senior government officials had gathered in the hall to join the secret meeting. After a while, a military officer said to the president that all the people have come except the scientist Mr. John. After some time, John entered the hall with his assistant. He smiled and looked at the president. The president also smiled back. The military officer stepped aside. The door to the hall was closed. The president briefed the audience about this important meeting. After a few moments, they looked at John questioningly. It meant that John could now talk about his new invention. John stood up, cleared his throat, and addressed the audience, "Reverend Mr. President, and other distinguished members. Today, I am introducing a useful invention that will greatly reduce our military and defense expenditures." He motioned to his assistant. He turned on the big screen in the hall. It showed giant robots in military uniforms, armed with advanced and dangerous weapons. John said, "Sir, no matter how many bullets you shoot at these robots, they will not fall or run away, but they will destroy our enemies in the blink of an eye. Now, there will be no need for soldiers at the border posts. Think about how much the government will save." A young officer, Thomas, stood up. He looked at the president and said, "Sir, I want to say something." The president gave permission. Thomas was a cheerful and brave military officer who was popular among his military circles, but many high-ranking government officials also liked him because of his good manners. Thomas said, "Dear John, of course, modern robots are wonderful, but our soldiers who can think and make rational decisions will be unemployed. Robots are just machines. They are like super smart machines that can do amazing things, but they do not think like humans do. They follow instructions given by people and can perform tasks, but they do not have emotions or make decisions on their own. Imagine them as really advanced helpers who need someone to tell them what to do step by step. They are great at doing specific jobs, but they cannot think or make rational decisions." John laughed upon hearing this. He said, "Son, what is the need for emotions on the battlefield? Isn't it your duty to kill the enemy when you go on a mission? And I have nothing to do with the unemployment of the soldiers. They will find some other job eventually." Before Thomas could say anything else, the president interrupted the discussion and called the meeting adjourned, motioning for John to follow him out of the hall. Thomas also left the hall. The president was leaving. Before John sat in his car, Thomas addressed him. They stopped. Thomas said, "Can I talk to you for a while?" He smiled and said, "Do you want to change my thoughts?" He also liked this cheerful young man. Thomas said seriously, "No, I want to tell you a story." John also became serious. "Come on, today I will take you to my favorite restaurant. Let's have lunch together." The two left in John's car. After ordering food, John said, "The story should be short. I am very busy. I do not have much time." Thomas said, "Yes, sir. Very short. Perhaps you remember that a few years ago, the enemy suddenly attacked our headquarters. If our soldiers were not alert, there would have been a lot of damage, but many of our soldiers still got killed. We chased the enemy into the forest while firing. Suddenly, the firing stopped. I waited for some time and came out from behind the trees. Suddenly, a bullet from nowhere hit me in the stomach. I staggered and fell into the river. John said, "Yes, I know about this incident, and then you returned safely after 6 months. You said that you reached a nearby village by river. The villagers treated you, and you came back after getting well." Sure enough, I reached a village near the enemy's border. When I regained consciousness, a child was sitting beside me. Seeing me regain consciousness, he shouted happily, "Grandma! Uncle has regained consciousness." An old lady came near me. She checked my fever and said, "Thank God you have regained consciousness after 20 days. How are you feeling now?" I said, "I am fine, ma'am. I was shot." The woman said, "Yes. Our village doctor is very experienced. She treated you with great care. She took care of me like a mother." The child also got to know me. I had recovered to a great extent. The lady handed over my uniform to me. Till now, I was wearing her son's dress. They put their hands on my head and prayed for me. I also bowed down and kissed the child. The door opened, and I was shocked to see the face that appeared in front of me. He was also surprised to see me. Suddenly, he pointed a gun at me. That lady came in front of me. The man said, "Mama, go away, this is our enemy." The woman said, "But at this time he is our guest." I also understood who he was by seeing his uniform, but he was injured and unconscious when we found him. "Have I taught you to be cruel?" The man said, "If I were in his place, he would have killed me by now." The woman said, "The battlefield is different, but if someone needs our help, we will help him, even if he is our enemy. I have entrusted the responsibility to James. He will deliver him safely across the border." He lowered his gun, and I reached out to the man for a handshake. After a pause, he shook hands with me, and then I crossed the border safely. Thomas became silent. John was listening to this story with full attention. He took a cold breath and said, "I understand the purpose of your story is that people understand each other's feelings. When to do what, only humans have this ability." In the middle of these things they had lunch. John stood up and said, "Let me drop you off at home." Thomas agreed. Near the house, Thomas got out of the car and said, "When I was leaving there, the child said to me, 'Uncle, I will not grow up to be a soldier. They kill humans. I will become a doctor like my grandmother, who saves people's lives.' That noble lady did not even tell me she was my doctor." Saying this, Thomas got out of the car. At night, John's message came on Thomas's mobile phone, "Dear Thomas, of course, machines cannot replace humans, but we can use them for good purposes, and they can be used to great advantage. Isn't that right?" Thomas smiled and sent back a message, "Thank you very much.